Welcome back to Urban America Horror, and if you're new here, welcome too. As always, if you have your own story to share in the next episode, send it to Urban America Horror or email us. You can find the details in the description below. I'd love to feature your story right here. After all, it's stories like yours that keep this show alive and spooky every day. Now be sure to hit that like and subscribe button if you're new and ready for more creepy and truly weird stuff. We have 340 words left to live, 335 words to go. Leonard cracks a cold one after wiping his shotgun. He doesn't even look like he cares anymore. Gonna stick around to see it end? I ask. Fuck it. Might as well. He chuckles. It's been a good one, you know. All these chapters. Could have been worse. Could have been worse. Words I always live by. What are you gonna do? I kind of want to have the last word. He scoffs. I continue. You know how I always say goodbye to people before I leave? Well, I was thinking I could do the same thing. It would be polite. It would be poetic. Since when did your ass give a shit about being polite? Well, when death stares you in the face, you tend to change. We don't die. There's no heaven or hell when you're not real. We just stop existing. Silence. How many words we got? 181? Leonard starts tearing up. How's the wife and kid? Mona wanted to go out on her own terms. Found her this morning. But Lonnie, she's too young to really understand she's not real. I shot her while she wasn't looking. If the end wasn't approaching, I would have turned the shotgun on him the instant he said that. But it's the end of the story, I understand. How many we got left? 107. Words aren't that easy to keep track of. They're not uniform. Several words can describe a single moment. I guess that's why Leonard killed himself. He couldn't really pinpoint when it would end. The bang from the shotgun almost deafened me. The splatter of blood nearly blinded me. I couldn't even make myself look at his body. 52 words left. Why did the author have to make us aware it was fake? Why did he make us aware of when the story ended? I just want to be real, but I know that's a far-off dream. 10 words left. I close my eyes. 3, 2, goodbye. In our town, the 17-year-olds are cursed to kill every Halloween. I just found out why. Jesse Highcliffe, high school royalty, gutted my father when I was 5 years old. We were cursed, every generation. There was a cure in the form of numbing, an expensive procedure protecting rich kids. Mom refused to pay, so on my 17th Halloween, I tied myself up in my room. Emma, Harvey, the mayor's privileged son, tugged at my restraints. Harvey Cartwright could afford to be protected, and he was in the danger zone right before nightfall. This numbing shit my dad wants to do to me is psychotic. Harvey wrapped his arms around his knees. I'm not letting them fuck with my head. At least you won't be killing anyone. It's not a cure, Emma, he spat. It's a lobotomy. I thought following the rules wouldn't turn me into a monster, until I woke up in the middle of the night to a screeching noise in my head, rattling my skull. Opening my eyes, I found a thick red mist gluing them together, a sticky consistency of something dripping down my chin. I was standing in my parents' living room, my sister's severed head at my feet. I didn't have time to react, to mourn. That screech was like a drum, luring me to the mayor's office, passing my classmates roaming in packs, wearing entrails like war paint. My brains were bleeding out of my ears when I reached the mayor's office. The first thing I saw was my mother among the crowd of soccer moms on their knees, praying in flickering candlelight. Harvey was next to his father, eyes cavernous, a faraway smile on his lips, head cocked to the side. In one hand, he held his Nintendo DS by the hinge, absently tapping buttons. He was cured, but Harvey was drooling. The mayor stood. 100 sacrifices, he announced. So far, we have 98. My mother and the others echoed his words. He pressed a button, and that noise hit me again, cracking into my skull. To appease the ones below us. I tried to fight it, clamping my hands over my ears. But in 2 stumbling steps, I snapped a parent's neck, ripping my mother's heart out. I felt nothing, squeezing the pulpy mass between my fingers. Mom. Mayor Cartwright maintained his smile, delicately covering his son's eyes when I lunged toward a younger man, a puppet on strings. I couldn't stop it. The noise in my head, the commands laced into a single frequency, ordered me to kill the 99th sacrifice. I thought it would let go once my job was done, but then I remembered Jesse Highcliff's fate. When the screech in my head sent me to my knees, my body contorting, the parents cried out in symphony, mimicking my gasp for breath. I dropped onto my stomach, and so did they, copying my gurgling shrieks, my childish wails for my mom. This time, the mayor let a cured Harvey watch. 100 sacrifices was met with celebration around me. We weren't fucking cursed. They were. My mother died, and all she left me was an old coat. Did she leave a note? I asked, wiping the tears from my eyes. My sister Erica had called me and told me that our mother had committed suicide. Once the shock had passed, that was the first question I asked. She did, Erica replied with a sniffle, but all it said was, "I'm sorry." We spent the rest of the conversation speculating why she would do something like that, but neither one of us had a clue. The best that we could come up with was that she missed our father who'd passed away from cancer 3 years earlier. Before I got off the phone, Erica gave me the details of the memorial service that our mother had apparently set up in the weeks before her death. That all happened a week ago. I thought that would be the end of our family's ordeal, but that was not the case. The day after the memorial service, Erica and I got a call from a lawyer telling us that our mother had left specific instructions for him in her will. That was why the both of us were now seated across from him in his office. When he read the will, we weren't surprised to hear that our mother had divided everything up equally between me and my sister. "So that's it?" I asked. "You called us down here just to tell us we each get half?" "Not exactly," the lawyer replied. "Your mother did have one additional request." "What?" I asked. "I'm afraid I'm going to ask you to leave the office, Mrs. Payne," the lawyer said to my sister. "Why can't she stay?" I asked. "Your mother left specific instructions that the item I'm to give you is for your eyes only," the lawyer explained. "It's okay," Erica said before excusing herself from the office. Once my sister was gone, the lawyer got up and retrieved an old wool coat from his closet, which he carried over to me. "Your mother wanted you to have this." He handed me the coat. "A coat?" I stood up and took it from him. "What's so special about a coat?" "Put it on," the lawyer instructed. "What?" "Your mother said not to let you leave until you tried it on," the lawyer said. "This is stupid," I said as I put the coat on. "Happy now?" I thrust my hands into the pockets of the coat. When I did, my right hand brushed against a folded piece of paper. I pulled it out, unfolded it, and read the message written inside. This is what it said. "This coat belonged to your real mother. I stole it when I kidnapped you." My world suddenly flipped upside down, and with that came the realization that I was the reason my mother had committed suicide. A few weeks before she killed herself, I told her that I took a DNA test because I was curious about our heritage. When it all went brown, "Hurry up, Houston," Mom prodded. I sighed and hurried to catch up. It was an unusually warm day for the middle of January, much warmer compared to the cold days we had had for the past while. But why did Mom have to come pick me up? I could make it home by myself. She didn't care about me anyway. All she cared about were her medications bullshit. But something else stopped me dead in my tracks. A deep and loud groaning sound echoed through the street. The ground began to shake with a low but powerful rumbling. Something was coming. The sound got louder, and I saw some people come out of their homes to look around curiously. An earthquake? Then what sounded like a machine gun went off. I instinctively took off, heading immediately away from it, leaving Mom in frozen shock, trying to figure out the sound. The rumbling and groaning wasn't stopping, but there was something much worse than an earthquake coming. I'm sure we all saw it. Over top of the houses right where the distillery was, an enormous wave of deep brown rushing out with overwhelming power and force. People screamed. I panicked. The wave crashed down with a deafening holler and began to rush outwards. I dashed up a flight of stairs, throwing a glance over my shoulder and staring in horror. This was no ordinary flood. The building closest crumbled as the rush swelled and roared. I looked down at the panicked street, and in an instant it was overtaken. People, cars, everything, all caught in its viscous and glooping mass. I heard Mom scream from somewhere, and I almost left to go help her, but I stopped. There was no way I could have helped her, even if I had wanted to. A strong rush of air and debris followed shortly after, creating even more chaos. This was too much. After a few minutes, it stopped moving. I stared in muted horror at what I had just seen. In a couple of minutes, this whole street and many of the surrounding ones were completely overtaken, swamped with its thick masses. Rescuers came into sight, struggling to wade through the disaster. I came down a bit to a spot above the street that wasn't overtaken, and as I stared around in shock and terror, I saw a blurry figure under the mess. I didn't pay much attention to her anyway, but her stupid bright pink shirt had to be the only one in existence. I stepped into the thickening mass and slowly made my way over to her. I had to make sure. Sure enough, her mangled and bloated body was there, filled and distorted by the amount of liquid she had consumed. She wasn't going to come back up. I turned around without saying or feeling anything and waded back. Who would have thought I'd be thankful for a wave of molasses? My fiance killed our son. Today I found out why. It all happened so fast. My fiance and I were sitting on our couch. I'd only proposed the night before, but she was already planning guest lists and cake arrangements. Our baby Thomas snoozed in his bassinet. All seemed normal, but as we discussed venues, she suddenly froze mid-sentence. She had a strange look in her eyes, half confusion, half desperation. She began shaking. When I asked her what was wrong, her lips struggled to form words over chattering teeth. Cold. It was Arizona in July. Nothing seemed to warm her up. By then, she was doubled over, clutching her stomach in agony. She repeated one word again and again. Hungry. Thomas began crying. Something was very, very wrong. I ran to the bedroom to get my phone. She needed an ambulance. But from the next room, a sharp cry and a sound like snapping twigs. I saw my fiancée holding Thomas's limp body in her arms. Blood everywhere. She was eating him. "What have you done?" I screamed. She didn't seem to notice or care. I tried to wrench him from her grasp, but she only howled. "Food, food!" Her grip around his little legs like iron. I ran for my gun. I didn't know what else to do. That was 15 years ago. The case made national headlines. Suburban psycho eats child. The overwhelming silence of an empty house was deafening. Eventually, I threw all of their belongings away. I only kept her engagement ring. We'd found it hiking in the Sierras just before we learned she was pregnant. A tarnished gold band, inscribed with the initials TD, definitely old. I couldn't bear to part with it. She always wanted to know where it came from. Recently, I let a historian friend of mine do some digging. He called me, talking rapid fire, clearly ecstatic. As he spoke on speakerphone, I slipped the ring over my finger and began recording the call. I wanted to preserve this, to honor her memory. "Hi, Mike. I think you may have something special." As he went on, my hands felt strangely numb. Based on appearance, I'd estimate the ring to be mid-19th century. I turned up the heat. I couldn't seem to get warm. Based on location, I think it was lost by a settler coming over the mountains. I'd never been so cold in my life. The phone began to tremble, and I was so hungry, my stomach turning in knots. As for the initials, I think I know who that is. If so, it would solve a real historical mystery. So hungry, never be warm again. Needed food, needed to survive, needed meat. He didn't hear me drop my phone or walk out into the street. He continued breathlessly to an empty room. "I think TD is Tamsin Donner. Her husband was the leader of a group of pioneers called the Donner Party. From outside, a muffled scream. Her body was never found. Pre-game ritual. Baseball players are superstitious folks. Since Little League, I, like many practitioners of America's pastime, have had a few compulsions I felt helped me hit and feel better. Nothing too dramatic. Putting the left cleat on before the right, taking exactly 100 fake swings in the dugout, blowing a gum bubble before every at-bat. I did them after I got 4 hits. I did them after I struck out 4 times. By the time I reached the bigs, I leaned on my rituals more than ever. My potential was limitless, and I was constantly reminded of it. As a teenage Calip, I was expected to lead my team to a championship before I could rent a car. My career at the top level started wonderfully as I became the only debutant in franchise history to slug 2 home runs in my first game. However, a combination of stress from lofty, borderline impossible, expectations and the curve I hit when teams stopped feeding me cookies caused me to falter. Early September, my 3rd campaign, we were close to a wild card playoff spot despite my putrid .196 batting average. My 8 dingers, a far cry from the 56 I cranked my lone minor league season, were just as pathetic. Many fans, most who begged the organization to pull me up once upon a time, cringed when they saw my name in the lineup. My habits were still being used, but their effectiveness had dissipated, leaving me an anxious mess. So scatterbrained, I missed the team charter. Fuck, I tried to keep my cool, but it was a bad situation. The guy had seemingly manifested out of the farmland in some nowhere town on the way to Milwaukee. Even if it was deemed accidental, I would be shrouded in controversy. I'd be a cliche, the top pick who couldn't handle the big time. The old man looked to have little time and fewer friends. He was dead before I made the decision to bolt. Way to go, baby. My conscience had taken my mind off the diamond, allowing me to not beat myself before the pitcher did. I smacked 3 doubles that night, 2 more and a bomb the next. I became locked in and now viewed the geezer as a sacrifice. I knew how to break out of that mini slump and the next. My emergence and our title victories were bright spots during a scary time in the city. I'm in the Hall of Fame now. Wouldn't be here without my teammates, my coaches, and most importantly, the fans, especially the ones who gave their lives for my enshrinement. I may be facing an afterlife hotter than Atlanta in July, but right now I'm immortal. I was trapped at home with the body of my dead father. Please open the door, Dee Dee. The person speaking was my mother, but the voice coming out of her mouth was not hers. It was too deep, too guttural. No, I sobbed. When I got home from school, I went into the kitchen to get something to drink, and that's when I saw the body of my father lying on the floor in a pool of blood. Standing over him with a knife in her hand was my mother. I immediately tried to flee the house, but my mother blocked my path. Dee Dee, wait, she said with that strange-sounding voice with the knife still in her hand. All I could think was that she was going to kill me next, so I turned around and fled to the only place I could, the bathroom. Ever since she's been trying to coax me out. You're not my mom, I said. No, I'm not your mother. The thing pretending to be her agreed. And that's why I need your help. You're just trying to trick me. I swear I'm not, it said. I was just as confused about what happened to your father as you were. What do you mean? I'm going to stand on the other side of the kitchen, it said. When I do, I want you to open the door so we can talk. I promise I won't hurt you. We can talk just fine with the door closed, was my reply. That would be true if all we needed to do was talk, but there's more to it than that, it insisted. There's something I need to show you. There was no way I was going to open the door and the creature that was my mother knew it. Okay, it said, I get it. Under the circumstances, it's a little bit hard to trust me. How about we do this instead? There's a window in that bathroom, right? I didn't respond. I'm going to go outside, it said. When you see me in the yard, I want you to go out into the kitchen and look at the book on the counter. Can you do that for me? I suppose, I said after a moment's thought. Okay, I'm going now. I heard it walk through the house and out the front door. Then I waited for it to appear in the yard like it said it would. Go look at the book. Its voice was muffled through the glass. As quickly as I could, I ran into the kitchen, grabbed the book it was talking about, and then locked myself back in the bathroom. What is this? The book was filled with strange words. It's a book on how to summon demons, my possessed mother replied. My mom summoned you to kill my dad? No, the demon said. He was already dead when I got here. She summoned me so I'd take the blame. That's why I need your help. I'm innocent. Thanks for tuning in to today's horror story. If you have a horror, mystery, or haunting story you'd like to share, send it to us at Urban America Horror. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode when we upload it. We'll always be here waiting for your next horror story.